It's the big day. I just showed up at the federal courthouse in my florals, surprised to see
people on. Justice for Perez.
People that I don't know.
I subscribe.
We've never met in the real world, but it really is so nice to have support.
Yes, Perez.
I-
Yeah.
I was rehearsing, I was practicing while I was walking over. I'm feeling confident. I'll check in with you guys after the hearing. So that was a big loss. Let me take a moment to compose myself. Okay. I'll take another moment. Let me just take a moment and I'll be right back. I did my best. I'm proud of myself. And the system is rigged against the little guy. Goliath won again. Today was a big loss for me because the judge did nothing. The judge has an obligation to protect me, according to Rule 45, a non-party to this litigation and a Nevada resident. Rule 45 says that the place of compliance is the only appropriate venue to litigate issues regarding a subpoena. Lively's subpoena against me, where she's requesting to unmask my anonymous sources and my work product. Her subpoena lists Las Vegas as the place of compliance because according to Rule 45, the place of compliance needs to be within 100 miles of where the non-party lives. The judge today did not rule on the merits of my motion to quash that I filed here. Instead, he wanted to hear arguments for and against transferring to the Southern District of New York. Here's the craziest part. Even though I made stronger arguments for keeping issues regarding the subpoena here, Judge Boulware, at the end of today's hearing, telegraphed and basically told us how he would rule. He said, if Judge Lyman in SDNY rules that he has jurisdiction over me, then this judge here, the real court with jurisdiction over me with regards to this subpoena, will transfer it. Because Blake Lively argued in SDNY that because I filed motions for protective order in New York, that automatically subjected myself to the jurisdiction of Judge Lyman. The only reason I did that is because throughout the entirety of this litigation, only until recently have they been doing differently. But for the majority of 2025, Blake Lively and her lawyers have repeatedly doxed the home addresses of parties and non-parties, exposing them to serious risk. And this is not me being a celebrity reporter, a gossip columnist that's exaggerating. No, Steve Sarowitz, one of the Wayfarer defendants, his daughter and he were subjected to an attempted kidnapping. And Blake Lively was mentioned in texts that were sent regarding the kidnapping attempt and the request for ransom to not kidnap his daughter. An arson was also committed on his property at his home in Illinois. Parties and non-parties have received death threats. Blake Lively and her lawyers had every ability to file affidavits of service under seal, showing only the judge and the court the home addresses where their process servers attempted to issue subpoenas. And they could have filed redacted versions for the public docket, but they didn't. They didn't, and that was a legal tactic. It was a choice, and it was an immoral one, I believe. And I had a legitimate fear that Blake Lively would expose me and my minor children to the same. That's why the very same day that I was subpoenaed, I filed a motion for a protective order in the Southern District of New York. Never would I have even done that if I would have known that that would automatically subject me to that jurisdiction, because my understanding of the law is the only place with jurisdiction over me is here, the district court in Nevada, in Las Vegas. And what's so frustrating is this judge here knows. He knows that this is the only place with jurisdiction over me with regards to this subpoena. But he's willing to have me go back and forth to New York to fight this, to spend money on this unnecessarily, to be away from my kids, to have to get a babysitter. This is such an undue burden on a non-party, especially for a subpoena that is asking for the privileged information of a journalist. Rule 45 explicitly states that if a subpoena is requesting privileged information, it must be quashed in full. So, the judge issued a placeholder for a hearing next week. Only if Judge Lyman rules that he doesn't have jurisdiction over me. Which, if he were an ethical judge, if Lyman were not biased in favor of Blake Lively, I would say, okay, wonderful, easy. See you back here again next week, Judge, here in Las Vegas, because Lyman's going to rule he doesn't have jurisdiction over me, because he doesn't. But I believe Judge Lyman is chummy with her lawyers and not with the Wayfarer Defendants Council. And he is biased in favor of Blake Lively. As somebody who has been following this case and every single one of his rulings and orders, it is clear to me that this judge is biased and corrupt, and it is real as I perceive it. So, hey, it's possible the judge might rule in New York that he does not have jurisdiction. You know, lawyers are going to take big swings. And that's what Blake Lively's lawyers did in New York. Just like they took a big swing here in Nevada, arguing that I'm not a journalist because I am not affiliated with a newspaper or a TV network. That's not what the law in Nevada says. In 2019, Toll versus Wilson, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled that digital journalists like myself are afforded the same rights, privileges, and protections as those in the mainstream media. The law doesn't protect a kind of journalist. It protects the act of reporting. And so does federal law. The federal reporter's privilege says that journalism is somebody who gathers information of public interest and shares it with the public. That is who I am. That is what I do. Everything that Blake Lively is asking of me is protected and privileged. All of it I obtained in my capacity as a journalist, working on this story, covering it as a celebrity reporter. It's just insane to me that it's even gotten to this point. This subpoena should have already been quashed a while ago. It's insane to me that she's continuing to fight it. But you know what? You want to know a silver lining? It's so hot. Let me take off my jacket. Hold on. I'm like melting. Jesus Christ. If I would have used my lawyers that I've worked with for 2 decades, since 2006, I believe, was when I first started working with them. Given the high-profile nature of this case, given the fact that there have been filings in 2 courts, by now, 2 months deep, that would have cost me to fight this improper, unduly burdensome, overly broad subpoena requesting privileged information. It would have cost me at a minimum $50,000. And I don't want to spend that much to fight for what I know is right and for what should not be handed over. I can't use insurance on this. I have insurance, but I'm not being sued. Do you understand? If I was sued, then I could, hey, insurance company, I pay you every month for things like this, but I'm being subpoenaed. My insurance does not cover a subpoena. It would have cost me over at least $50,000 by now and more. Jesus, I am melting. Let me open the door. No, oh my God. Whew, I'm overheating. Hold on, let me turn the air on for a second. Don't worry, I'm gonna turn the AC off because I don't want it to be noisy. The silver lining is this. I know that me fighting for what's right, fighting not just for me, but for journalists across Nevada and across the country, and how these two judges in Las Vegas and New York City rule on this could affect journalists everywhere. I know that my fight for what is right, what is fair, what is just, has cost me nothing other than my time, but it's cost Blake Lively hundreds of thousands of dollars by now. And it's going to cost her even more if she continues this. She flew in a lawyer from D.C. and a lawyer, well, I thought the other one was from New York, but the judge said, or somebody in court said she's also from D.C. She flew in 2 lawyers from the East Coast and her local counsel. It was all 3 of these lawyers today against little old me. And I'm going to go home now and file another motion to supplement the record about why this would be unduly burdensome. Because they're going to make me incur cost of going to New York to fight this. Airfare, accommodation, transportation, babysitters. That's an undue, it's just ridiculous. But I worked so hard. The people in that court that were there know that I handled myself with class, respect, knowledge. It really meant a lot that a lot of other digital journalists were there today, and some supporters of mine. And I like to be honest and real. Here are 2 big confessions. One, the reason I even sent spicy letters to Judge Lyman in the Southern District of New York is because I thought he was biased, and he ruled against me early on with something that would have been so easy to help protect me and my children and our safety. He already ruled on that first motion for a protective order against me, saying, oh, the court already has procedures in place. This judge is putting the onus on pro se movements like myself, people without a lawyer, to be familiar with everything that court is doing and already has in place, when it could have been very simple to say, you know what, Mr. Hilton, I will grant you this, even though it's unnecessary. I will make sure that you don't have to worry about filing anything else. Your home address is not going to be published. He could have done that, but he didn't. And that was the first minute that I knew he was a joke. And ever since then, I've had no respect for that clown. And I started to behave clown-like a court jester, holding truth to power. I would have never gotten that spicy, though, if it would have ever conceivably occurred to me that that judge would truly have jurisdiction over me, because he doesn't. Listen, Judge Lyman could prove me wrong. He could rule that he does not have jurisdiction over me, like Blake Lively's lawyers are arguing, that just filing that motion for a protective order, the second one, where it was asking Lyman to prevent Lively from issuing any more burdensome, improper subpoenas that are really just fishing expeditions because she's got no evidence of a retaliatory smear campaign. I was saying she needed to get permission from the judge to issue any more subpoenas. I'm melting. Oh my God. I'll be right back. I don't even know where I left off. Listen, I like to be honest about everyone, including myself. I'm screwed. Judge Lyman could prove me wrong. He could rule that he does not have jurisdiction over me, like he doesn't, but I truly believe he's biased, and it is 99% likely that Lyman will rule against me and in favor of Blake Lively, like he's done repeatedly throughout 2025. However, if Judge Lyman does the right thing and says that argument that you've made, Lively, is not the law and it's an incorrect argument, the only court absent a transfer that has jurisdiction over this subpoena is the District of Nevada. Therefore, the judge there should handle this. If Lyman does the right thing, then the judge here in Las Vegas already issued a hearing for next week. That's only if Lyman rules he does not have jurisdiction, which I would say the likelihood of that happening is just 1%. It's 99% likely that Lyman will rule he has jurisdiction. But if he does the right thing, we'll be back here on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, at 1:30 p.m. to argue the merits of my motion to quash and Blake Lively's motion to compel. But it's just such a waste of time because the judge here didn't need to punt to Lyman. He valued not wanting inconsistent rulings and two jurisdictions handling this over what he really knows, which is that this judge, Judge Boulware, is the only one that can rule they have jurisdiction, because that's what the law says. Lyman would have to create new law, it's just insane. It's just insane. Hold on, I need to get more air. So, fingers crossed. It really is a real life David versus Goliath. It's just insane. This is insane. Thank you to everybody that supported me, especially the people who don't like me. That means a lot. People who hate me, but say, you know what? I can put my displeasure for Perez aside and acknowledge that what Blake Lively is asking is wrong. He is a journalist. What she's asking of him is privileged. She should not get access to any of that. I have lost hope. I'm not confident that things are going to go my way in SDNY, but we will find out soon. This judge here told the court that he has spoken to Lyman, and I could only imagine what Judge Lyman told Judge Boulware. And seeing as Judge Boulware here in Las Vegas issued a hearing only if Lyman rules he doesn't have jurisdiction, if that hearing happens on Tuesday, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm so spent. I remember. I've lost hope, but I've lost not my will to keep fighting, because that is what is right. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to continue to protect my sources. I'm going to continue to protect my journalistic materials, my work product, published and unpublished. And we fight on. If you want to support me, keep watching my videos. Watching until the end is the most meaningful way to support. Hit that like button, share, comment. If you want to support in other ways, you can get a cameo from me. You can buy some of my merch. You can, whatever. Pray for me. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to look back on this and know that I was on the right side and that I did it for the right reasons. Okay? Yes, initially I was excited But then I didn't really want to be subpoenaed. This has been such a drain, such a burden. And I'm going to stop talking now. It's a shame that the judge here just didn't do what he knew he needed to do. Asserting, maintaining that this district, the District of Nevada, his court is the only court that can litigate the subpoena. And he's punted to Lyman. And he literally said, if Lyman says he has jurisdiction, I'm going to transfer it. There's no other way of painting today but a major loss and an injustice. That's what I think. What do you think? Let's discuss in the comment section. Okay. Also, P.S. This was just such a waste of time. This was such a waste of time. The judge had basically already made up his mind. Like, why not even just say, you know what? Let's pause until Judge Lyman rules. There was no need for this hearing today. And yesterday, Judge Lyman issued an order, a ruling in New York, compelling the Wayfarer defendants. Everything Blake Lively is asking of me in her subpoena, she can now get directly from the Wayfarer defendants if they exist. The Wayfarer defendants are not journalists. They don't have to protect me if communications happened. I've never publicly confirmed or denied if I've spoken to any of the Wayfarer parties or their agents. All I've ever said is I've spoken to Team Baldoni sources. But Judge Lyman's ruling last night made Lively's subpoena against me redundant, duplicative, moot. It rendered it ineffective. The standard is Rule 45 states that she must seek the information from alternative sources. And now those alternative sources have been ordered by the court to give it to her, compelled by Judge Lyman. So the subpoena should be quashed in full. Thankfully, I have fun plans tonight with my daughter, one of them. And I'm going to need that distraction. I thought tonight was going to be celebratory. But I was right. I was cautiously optimistic, but I said, it's Vegas. Anything can happen. Bye. You guys. Oh my God. I just got home. My kids are practicing piano. Oh my God. You guys. Oh my God. Judge Lyman just ruled and he proved me wrong. Judge Lyman just ruled he does not have jurisdiction over me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't even... What this means is we're on for next week. The hearing is happening here in Las Vegas on Tuesday, courtroom 7C, 1:30 p.m. Let me make sure that's the right time. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wait, I have so many file. Oh my God. Let me make sure. Yep, Tuesday, September 2nd, 1:30 p.m. Oh my God. Let's I need to read this as a celebration now. I can't believe Judge Lyman did this. I cannot believe it. Holy, this is like a miracle. This is not one, this is crazy. This is crazy. Oh my God. This is so great. This is crazy. This is crazy. Oh my God. I can't believe this. He either really wanted to prove that he is not biased, or my tactic worked and he just did not want to deal with me anymore. Yes! Let's read this. Literally, this literally just came out as I got home. Louis J. Lyman, United States District Judge. Plaintiff Blake Lively moves pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 45 to compel non-party Mario Armando Lavandeira Jr. to comply with a subpoena served on him on July 19th, 2025. Lively asserts that the subpoena was issued after defendants, the agency group PR LLC and Melissa Nathan, specifically identified Lavandeira as one of 4 content creators who seeded, generated, created, or influenced social media content or provided related digital or social media services directly or indirectly at the request of or on behalf of, I'm overwhelmed, any Wayfarer party or their agents or affiliates. Lavandeira has moved in his district of residence, the District of Nevada, to quash the subpoena. In this court, Lavandeira has stressed that the proprietary of the subpoena must be litigated in the District of Nevada. Among other things, he has argued that this court lacks personal jurisdiction over him. Yes. It is axiomatic that, the judge is quoting, that before compelling a non-party to comply with a subpoena pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 45, a court must have personal jurisdiction over that non-party. In assessing whether such personal jurisdiction exists, the Second Circuit has instructed courts to determine whether the non-party's contacts with the forum go to the actual discovery sought. This stands in contrast to the personal jurisdiction analysis for parties, which asks whether the contacts relate to the underlying cause of action. Lively has not alleged that the discovery she seeks from Lavandeira relates to his contacts with the forum state. Rather, she asserts that Lavandeira has either consented to personal jurisdiction in this court or waived any objections to the contrary, neither of which have happened. Consent is a traditional basis of jurisdiction that may be upheld even in the absence of minimum contacts between the defendant and the forum state. Blah, blah, he cites case law. Although Lavandeira has repeatedly indicated that he does not consent to personal jurisdiction in this court, blah, 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 whether voluntary or, although Lavandeira has repeatedly, God, I'm like overwhelmed. Although Lavandeira has repeatedly indicated that he does not consent to personal jurisdiction in this court, an individual's actions may amount to a legal submission to the jurisdiction of the court, whether voluntary or not. One long recognized manner of consenting to personal jurisdiction is by appearing and seeking affirmative relief from the court. Okay? Then he cites case law. This conclusion derives from the common sense principle that a party cannot simultaneously seek affirmative relief from a court and object to the court's exercise of jurisdiction. Notwithstanding the fact that this basis for personal jurisdiction is well established, courts have noted a dearth of case law defining precisely what types of appearances and filings qualify as a defendant's legal submission to the jurisdiction of the court. Then he cites case law, blah, blah, blah. Lively cites 3 of Lavandeira's filings as evidence of his submission, I can't believe this still, to this court's jurisdiction. In the first 2, Lavandeira seeks sealing and redaction of his personally identifying information. As with requests for continuances or stays, although these filings do to some extent seek affirmative relief from the court, they do not demonstrate an expectation of litigating either the merits of the subpoena or any other substantive issues in the case. A person can ask that his personal information not be publicly disclosed by the court without generally subjecting himself to the jurisdiction of the court, as I said. These filings, therefore, do not constitute a waiver of Lavandeira's defense of personal jurisdiction. The third filing, Lavandeira's motion for protective order to require court approval prior to future non-party subpoenas, poses a much closer question. In this motion, Lavandeira seeks on behalf of himself and all other non-parties a protective order pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26C1, requiring Lively to obtain leave of court before issuing further non-party subpoenas. The motion does not seek to quash the subpoena. Rather, the only relief it seeks is prospective, i.e. preventing Lively from issuing additional subpoenas. In support of her argument that Lavandeira's motion constitutes either consent to personal jurisdiction or a waiver of that defense, Lively cites case law from the D.C. Circuit stating that a non-party that moves for a protective order in the court of the underlying action thereby submits to that court's jurisdiction. Understanding this statement and its implications requires context. Under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26C, any person from whom discovery is sought may move for a protective order. Among the possible protective orders a court may issue is one forbidding disclosure or discovery. Alternatively, Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 45 provides that a non-party may move to quash or modify a subpoena. Accordingly, there are certain circumstances in which protective orders, especially those forbidding disclosure or discovery, function similarly to orders quashing subpoenas under Rule 45. The D.C. Circuit's opinion addresses the interplay between these two rules, and its language about submitting to a court's jurisdiction stands for the uncontroversial proposition that where a non-party seeks to preclude discovery under Rule 26C, the non-party consents to personal jurisdiction in the court where its motion is filed, just as a non-party consents to personal jurisdiction in the forum, blah, blah, blah. In other words, good. If a non-party seeks to litigate before a court the merits of a subpoena through either a protective order or a motion to quash, it cannot complain if the court decides the merits. I never, ever argued, well, only when the judge forced me to, over the jurisdiction. I only argued about jurisdiction. That's all I argued. It cannot complain if the court decides the merits. The non-party has consented to the personal jurisdiction of that court. Here, Lavandeira's motion does not seek to preclude discovery under Rule 26C or to quash the subpoena under Rule 45. Rather, the motion seeks only the prospective relief of preventing Lively from issuing further subpoenas to non-parties without leave of court. I was looking out for other future potential victims of subpoena Serena. Although the motion that I filed mentions the subpoena, it does so in passing and is addressed broadly toward the issue of non-parties and this litigation more generally. This stands in contrast to other filings Lavandeira has submitted, which do address the subpoena at length in an attempt to litigate its merits. Given that the motion seeks no relief with respect to the subpoena, it is not the kind of request for affirmative relief that would create a reasonable expectation of litigating a motion to quash or to compel enforcement of the subpoena. The motion, therefore, did not operate as a waiver of personal jurisdiction with respect to that issue, nor have Lavandeira's subsequent filings addressing the merits of the subpoena in this court operated as a waiver. The court informed Lavandeira that should it find personal jurisdiction exists and should he fail to respond to Lively's motion to compel, he risked waiving his opposition to the motion. His arguments on the merits have therefore been made as an alternative to his personal jurisdiction defense. As courts have explained, individuals may simultaneously raise both personal jurisdiction and substantive arguments, for they should not be required to either forfeit a defense of their position on the merits or waive their due process rights. In reaching this conclusion, the court is particularly mindful of Lavandeira's pro se status. It is well established that a court is ordinarily obligated to afford a special solicitude to pro se litigants. The rationale underlying this rule is that a pro se litigant generally lacks both legal training and experience and accordingly is likely to forfeit important rights through inadvertence if he is not afforded some degree of protection. Ultimately, the court is reluctant to hold that Lavandeira's motion operated as a waiver of his rights given his lack of representation and his clear intent to litigate issues related to the subpoena in the District of Nevada. The court accordingly holds that it lacks personal jurisdiction over Lavandeira with respect to the subpoena. Lively's motion to compel is thus denied without prejudice for lack of personal jurisdiction. So ordered, Louis J. Lyman, United States District Judge. Oh my God. This is Vegas. Anything can happen. Holy hell. Holy guacamole. Oh my God. What? Like it's hard? I did this. I'm done. I'm gonna keep. Yes. Tuesday. Please come. If you showed up today, come again. If you're the media. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. I'm gonna celebrate tonight. Oh my God. Wow. And if you're still watching till the end, you found out this twist. Holy hell. Wow. I am looking forward to litigating this on Tuesday, September 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Las Vegas Federal Courthouse, 7C, Courtroom 7C, 1:30 p.m. this Tuesday, 1:30 p.m., 7C, Federal Courthouse. See you there. Oh my freaking God. Wow. 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 Let's celebrate in the comments. Oh my God. See you there in the comments. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need to calm down. You need to calm down. Oh my God. Thank you to Andy. Thank you to CJ. Thank you to Ariadna. Thank you to P. Thank you to all of the local news stations who showed up today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Judge Lyman. Wow. Holy hell. Oh my God. Okay, let me shut up. See you in the comments. Wow. Wow. Oh my God. Okay, all right. See you in the comments. See you in the comments.